What's going on, Disney fans? It's Disney Dan back with another Universal history. Although this isn't necessarily a Universal history, I should say, because I think this is more of a DreamWorks history. But listen, Trolls 2, it just came out on home video. Everyone's watching it, everyone's loving it. That follow-up to that poppy, wonderful glitter fest Trolls that dropped in 2016. And you're thinking to yourself, man, I wonder what Poppy looks like in the parks. And I'm glad you tuned in because I'm happy to give you some of that information. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of Trolls. It's 2016. Trolls had a particularly interesting way that they rolled out the release of the films. They took this over-the-top pop kids movie and they had a world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival. Did I say it right? I didn't say it right, did I?
Cannes.
Justin Timberlake, Anna Kendrick, they appear. They walk down this glamorous red carpet out on a pier surrounded by these supermodels covered in troll hair. They do this little impromptu concert. It's really, really great. But nowhere to be seen are Poppy and Branch, the costume characters. And this is a new movie. And now Disney and Universal, DreamWorks, whenever they make new, big, fantastic movies like this, typically they can crank out the costumes really quickly. And so it's a little bit of surprise that out at the world premiere, they didn't have Poppy and Branch. Although Cannes Film Festival, it's a little fancy, a little classy. I guess it might make sense to have supermodels with wigs and beautiful, colorful dresses on versus two over-the-top costume characters. Fast forward to when the movie premiered in America, November 6th, and again at the red carpet, a huge event. It wasn't even a red carpet, it was a rainbow carpet they rolled out, because of course, right, it's Trolls. But nowhere to be found at the American premiere were Branch and Poppy, and there's a reason for that, because they're on a cruise ship. That's right, the Royal Caribbean, Harmony of the Seas, had a partnership with DreamWorks to have their characters on the boats. And so, as Trolls premiered live to America, out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, on like day 3 or 4 of a cruise, suddenly appears Branch and Poppy on the boat, handing out 3D glasses to all the families to head over to the movie theater on the ship and be like, hey, everybody, it's time to watch the world premiere out in the middle of the ocean with Branch and Poppy. And that's what happened. And they lived on those boats for many, many months, in fact. And there was no other opportunity to really meet Branch or Poppy and get your pictures with them unless you were on a Royal Caribbean cruise. Fast forward to the next year, June 2017, something like 8 months later, finally Universal Studios is like, all right, Hollywood, we've got this Universal Plaza. Let's make some good use of it. So right there in the center of the plaza, the showpiece of the whole event were Trolls, this massively popular movie. Now you can come and meet the characters. And boy, people came out in droves to meet these characters. And let's break down the costumes because they're relatively simple. They're kind of how Mickey and Minnie work, right? We've got a team member inside. They're not cast members because this is Universal and DreamWorks. So we've got a team member inside. Their head is, of course, inside of the prop head of the character. And then there is what I can only assume to be essentially like an upside down ice cream cone of foam, a hollow foam kind of shell that was made. And then just a relatively thin layer of hair is layered over top of it. You see this kind of done in a lot of toy manufacturing where they'll do hair kind of like on the outskirts of the toy head and then pull it into a ponytail. And when you take the ponytail out and you look at the toy, you're like, why is there a big bald spot? So if we were to release all the hair, you would notice that it was just kind of like, a cone, something propping up the inside of that head. But these team members inside these characters have a super limited vision because the only thing that they can see out of are the eyes. The eyes are their vision holes. And on these characters, the eyes are super duper tiny. The other thing that's interesting to note about these characters is that their hands are so large. They're just like these gigantic, baseball mitts. So it's pretty difficult to articulate those fingers. So the hands are kind of always at this kind of open, static pose and kind of dancing around and moving, which is fine because the Trolls, they're always dancing. They're always kind of jiving. So you don't really pay that close of attention to what their fingers are doing. So it kind of works for the characters. The costuming on these two characters, though, are gorgeous. The Branch vest is really bright and pops. It reminds me a little bit of like a Peter Pan vibe with all like the leaves, the layered leaves, and his patchwork shorts, super adorable. Over with Poppy, she's got that really great flower headband. These two characters are really impressive examples of costume productions of popular movie characters. As we move on to the next appearance of the Trolls, which is in October 2017, where they finally make their appearance at Universal Orlando. But something really weird happens. What we end up getting is this very bizarre variant of both Poppy and Branch. Like, it looks like Poppy was dipped in Pepto-Bismol and pulled out and like someone just kind of like wiped her eyes clear so that she could see. Like, it's just a very odd muted color palette for the character. And the same for Branch. Very blah, washed, devoid of any kind of character. And I can't really put my finger on what the reasoning for this choice was. Maybe this Branch and Poppy costumes were like the first versions of the costumes they made. And so they decided to make a new version. And these were just sitting in a closet somewhere. And they're like, we might as well use them. Just send them to Orlando. Nobody cares. Right? Maybe that's what happened. I'm not exactly sure. Just look at the hair. Look at the hair on Poppy in Hollywood on the cruise. You see this chimney stack of exploding hair, both for Branch and Poppy. It goes up, it has height, and it's feathered out, and it's really fun and beautiful. Cut to Orlando, where it's just like they took two like pillows off of a hotel room bed and just stuck fur onto them. DreamWorks continues to roll out the nice, clean, polished look of Poppy and Branch that we saw in Hollywood and on the boats in other locations, while still maintaining this muted, kind of embarrassing Poppy and Branch in Orlando for literally years, 2 or 3 years. A couple of months later in Singapore's Universal, they rolled out this whole troll celebration, troll musical number. There was a stage covered with ample amounts of glitter. And again, here we see that Hollywood Universal boat version of these characters drop. They've got the beautiful detailing. They've got the beautiful hair sculpts. What's super fun is that at the end of the show, Poppy even becomes queen finally. And so she has this really fun crown add-on piece that wraps around her head. If I was the one now making the decisions after they added this crown piece on in Singapore, I would just leave this crown on her all the time. It looks really, really nice. It fills in that kind of bright blob of pink that you see in all the photos that's kind of aggressive on your eyeballs. Let's move forward now from March into the summer of 2018 over in Dreamworld, Australia, where the Troll Village opens up. This was a big to-do, right? Where they came into Dreamworld and they just took over a corner of it and they just built a troll kind of experience. Sort of what they did out in California for Frozen. When that movie first dropped, they kind of did like this Frozen adventure in one of their studio buildings where they built a bunch of scenery and had the characters come out and you could kind of dance and explore and have fun. But what's interesting about the Troll Village in Dreamworld is that the Poppy Branch kind of dynamic expands and we get a new troll character that only appears in Dreamworld Australia, and that is DJ Suki. I believe that DJ Suki was Gwen Stefani in the movie. She's got these happening kind of like dreads. The DJ Suki toy that one of my kids has a very distinct bald spot on the top of its head, like I mentioned earlier, when you take out its ponytail. But DJ Suki, she rolls into Dreamworld. She starts laying down some sick beats. There's some great dance numbers, and this is a really fun costume. Now, if you look really closely at DJ Suki, you can see that it is a blend of the Branch face and Poppy, and instead of ears, she has headphones. Now, we're going to take a step forward to a new experience that's completely outside of theme parks, and that is in New York. DreamWorks in late 2018 had this really fun idea to open up a Trolls experience. Now, you've kind of heard about these things. You've seen like they've done them with Harry Potter, with like a studio tour. These kind of ideas and things are popular. The Trolls experience is essentially a glorified Chuck E. Cheese, and you're rolling in there for a bunch of photo ops to meet Poppy, watch 1 or 2 3D movies, to little playgrounds, and here, DreamWorks is like, all right, let's pull out the big guns. Let's completely redesign Poppy and let's give her a fresh, super screen accurate look. And they did it, and they did it with an insane amount of success. This new Poppy costume is gorgeous. The biggest thing here, and really if you look super closely at it, you'll notice that the body, the costume, more or less all the same. All the work really went into the head, and they completely redid some of the proportions of the head and some of the eyes. They closed her mouth so she doesn't have this big gaping kind of like toothy grin all the time. She looks kind of more regal, right? They eliminated that upside down ice cream cone of foam above the character head that they covered in fur and replaced it with this really cool kind of like umbrella of hair above her head. This awesome top knot. I guess the more I think about it, Poppy has a top knot, which makes me have a little bit less respect for Poppy, I guess. you know what? It really, really works because they kind of eliminated a lot of the bulk that isn't needed, because bulk on costume characters makes for an intimidating experience for a small kid. And so they're paring down a lot of those big rounded details because you want this Poppy to be as small and compact and adorable and relatable to these young girls and some boys that love her, that identify with her because she's a strong, powerful queen, right? Yes, queen. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, though, because just 3 months later, in January of 2019, over at Universal Orlando, we get a new troll character out of the blue, out of nowhere. And man, this is one of the greatest things that's ever happened to costume characters. I already did a video on this character because I wanted to explain a little bit of the mechanics of how it worked. But Universal Orlando, and then I believe Hollywood Universal, both ended up rolling out this costume of Guy Diamond, the glitter troll. A couple things happened with Guy Diamond. We get our first exposed butt crack of any costume character that I can think of, and it's great because Guy Diamond is fully nude, because Guy Diamond is a glitter troll. He's made of glitter, he breathes glitter, he thinks glitter, he farts glitter, and they brought that to life for serious in the parks because they took the generic fleece that they used to wrap all the characters in, and they just sort of preschool finger paint kind of idea with the glitter and just rubbed it in, right? Because it's fleece. You know, I'm sure you have stuffed animals that are made of fleece or blankets that are made of fleece. Take one of those blankets, or perhaps don't, but imagine taking one of those fleece blankets and just rubbing it with glitter, right? No matter what you do, the glitter is never coming out of that fleece blanket. Let's take a character and cover him in glitter so he leaves glitter on everyone he hugs. This character, he dances a little bit, he rips a glitter fart and dances some more, and kids love it. And a little part of me loves it too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I also love it a little tiny bit. All right, I'm getting off track. Guy Diamond was kind of like a ruse. And what we didn't realize was that they got rid of the blah version of Poppy and Branch and rolled out the versions of Poppy and Branch that look like Poppy and Branch. They dropped them into Orlando, finally. What I can only assume the reason for this being is that they built this Guy Diamond costume and they put him next to the Poppy and Branch, and everyone's just like, this is not gonna work. It's like putting the Mona Lisa on display next to two paintings of a 3-year-old trying to paint the Mona Lisa. But then in late 2019, DreamWorks kind of gets the itch, the Disney on Ice itch. And they're like, okay, let's do a Trolls live show. And that's what they did. They did the Trolls live tour. And so this is a little bit like the Sesame Street live tours, the Disney live tours. It's a cast of characters, a little tiny stage. There's a couple little montage videos, but more or less it's just a dance show. This is where they kind of go full out with the Trolls costumes, I think. This is kind of the best versions of these Troll costumes to an extent. Let me clarify that. I mean to an extent, in that they articulate the Trolls. So Trolls Live is now fully articulated. You've got all the characters from Branch, Poppy, you've got Cooper, you've got Guy Diamond, you've got those trolls that are like attached together with their ponytails. This is essentially the 2020 version of a horse costume, right? Because these two actors are permanently linked together. And it makes me sad that the show had to postpone and hasn't been running live, because I would guarantee by the end of the tour, there would be a video out there of one of them falling. And it kind of makes me sad that I don't have that to cut to right now.
And he's about to crash through the rail. Soft rain succotash.
And so these trolls are gorgeous, right? They all can articulate, they can blink, their mouths can move, they can dance around. They've got a lot of really fun stuff going on. They even got that one little troll that's just nothing but hair and feet. If you look a little bit closer, you can see clear as day, they're kind of vision spots. You know, with Cooper, he's seeing out of his neck. The only thing I could say is that I'm not particularly thrilled with Guy Diamond. The actor inside of this costume has to move, has to groove. So what you end up with is like a gray, shiny, naked guy dancing around a little bit. I still love it. I still think that it was practical and works in its application, just like all of these costumes. Really, the only troll costume I have a real problem with is that original Orlando Poppy and Branch, which is just a tragedy. But for the most part, trolls, they've done pretty well in the parks. And surprisingly, the movie's only been around for 4 years, 3.5 years, let's say. And from there, we've already spawned a bunch of costumes, from Branch to Poppy, DJ Suki, we've got Guy Diamond, and now the whole cast of the main ensemble in this Trolls Live. If you guys have met the Trolls live in the parks, if you've met the Trolls live at the Trolls Experience, if you went and saw the Trolls Live show that opened in November, it kind of ran for a couple months before it had to temporarily take a break. If you saw any of that, let me know in the comments. I want to know about some of your experiences. If you have a picture with Guy Diamond farting on you, tweet it at me, Instagram me, Facebook me, or drop it in the comments. I want to see all these pictures. I want to see everything you guys have done, all the fun you guys have had with these characters, and how much you love them. And also make sure you check out Trolls World Tour. Not sponsored by them whatsoever, but I watched it last night. I cried profusely at the end. It was beautiful. It was full of color and togetherness and music. Really appreciate you guys watching. And as always, you rock. I can't imagine that glitter's biodegradable. And now I imagine that there's a portion of Universal that you can just tell, kind of like those shadows in Pompeii. You can tell everywhere that Guy Diamond has been and has farted. And I think that is kind of tragic. I can't even imagine how hard it is to clean glitter out of a porous surface like concrete.